The American Yawp, Chapter 5. The American Revolution was made possible by thousands of men and women willing to believe in the impossible, that a global empire not only could but should fall when faced with the ideology of self-determination. War was no one's immediate desire. Indeed, for many years, Englishmen on both sides of the Atlantic struggled to reconcile their differences. Where colonists had assumed relative independence in the long absence of British control, economic and political necessity finally forced Britain to call on their claims at colonial control after the 7 Years' War. Attempts at colonial reform enacted by the British, namely the Royal Proclamation Line of 1763, the Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, and the Currency Act, were largely seen as punitive measures by the colonists, who only enjoyed virtual representation in Parliament. Resistance to growing British control spanned social class and veered toward anarchy in the colonies at times. The so-called coercive acts, passed in retribution on the rebellious events of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, only united the Patriots' cause. Though many colonists remained loyal to the British Crown after the Boston Massacre, Thomas Paine's Common Sense pamphlet convinced enough ordinary Americans that a declaration of independence from the king was the only recourse they had left. The Continental Army faced brutal weather, well-trained British redcoats and vicious German Hessians up and down the continent. But the American cause attracted support because it was practical as well as radical, in that many soldiers who joined saw it as an effort to return colonial conditions to an earlier era in which British authority was largely absent. Less a revolution, more a return to normalcy. Ultimately, it was waning support for the war in England amidst mounting military pressures elsewhere, and the entry of France on behalf of the colonies that brought the war for independence to a close. After the war, there were winners, patriots, Protestants, and losers, Indians who'd backed the British, Tories, or loyalists to the crown. Popular sovereignty would inform the new state constitutions that were written, but the fear of centralized power neutered the first Republican governments on the continent, including the Articles of Confederation that would bind them. Though the system of British mercantilism and their taxes were now gone, the institution of African slavery held firm in the new American nation.